Band on for you there? Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Like Ben E. King calls us into this conversation about standing by each other. What exactly does that mean? So I'm excited to get into that conversation. But first, I want to make sure that I say welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you who have decided that you wanted to stop by Community Voices right here at KABF 88.3, where we are live as the voice of the people. We want to make sure that you know how grateful we are that you are present in this space with us. We know that we could not be here. We are a volunteer organization, so we could not be here if it were not for you. So we always want to take a moment to say thank you. We want to take a moment to say thank you for all of the ways that you show up. Sometimes you show up in community. Sometimes you show up with your financial donations. Sometimes you show up with your pushback. Sometimes you show up with your challenge. However you show up in the space, we are grateful for that, and we want you to know it. And we cannot start any conversation without saying that. And I always have to take a moment to pause and look across the studio and see my illustrious.
Oh, must be a new year, a new word, illustrious.
I decided not to use pontificator.
Oh,
I've been using that word lately, but want to make sure that because Tony said to us a couple of weeks ago that he would not be here, like that was his last day for the 2022 year, and now here we are in 2023, and you are present with us. So I just want to give you a moment, Tony, to greet us in this new year.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello. It is good, as they say. Oh, I made it over. I made it to a new year. And I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for all of you tuning in. I'm excited about what the new year will bring on Community Voices and the workplace down with that, or all the other shows here on KABF 88.3 FM. But this morning, I just want to take a moment to send out prayers to Damar Hamlin and his family. For those of you who may have been watching the Monday Night Football game, or you may have heard through news reports, Damar Hamlin is a safety, 24-year-old safety for the Buffalo Bills. Last night, he made a routine tackle and he collapsed. He jumped up from the tackle, and 3 seconds later, he collapsed on the field. They had to resuscitate him, give him CPR, get his heart back to going, and then they took him to the hospital. And the word is so far is that he's in an induced coma. He's still in critical condition. So, and it hits home with me and for so many other people who may have played football or played or participated in sports, knowing that at any moment in time, things can happen to where it will jeopardize your life. Football is a violent sport at times. And so I just want to send my prayers out to him and his family and just pray for that he recovers from this incident. And I just want to put that out in the universe.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I want to start us off this morning with the tidbit from the Equal Justice Initiative. As always, usually I use the day, like Tuesday the 3rd, but I don't want to use Tuesday because of our conversation that has been grounded by B&E King singing Stand By Me. Oh, but first I should say to those of you, all of you who participated in the Kwanzaa celebrations all week long, we just finished on this past Sunday. So I wanted to make sure I said thank you to you, the community, for showing up for those celebrations. We want to now live into the rest of those days. We want to live those 7 principles all year long. We just use those 7 days as a primer to get us ready for how we're going to embody those principles for the rest of this year. So I want to say thank you to those of you who did show up for Kwanzaa, whether it was 1 day or 2 days or 7 days. Just want to say thank you to you for that. Don't want to forget to say that. But I don't want to use the tidbit from Tuesday the 3rd. I actually want to use the tidbit from Monday the 2nd because we're talking about love. So on Monday, January 2nd, in the year 1944, which would have been yesterday for us in 2023, Willie James Howard, who was a Black 15-year-old, is lynched by 3 white men in Suwannee County, Florida, after one of the men accuses Howard of writing a love note to his daughter. So on January 2nd, in 1944, Willie James Howard, who was 15 years old, a young Black man, was lynched by 3 white men in Suwannee County, Florida, after one of the men accuses Howard of writing a love note to his daughter. So first of all, let's just talk about the fact that the young Black man was accused. Doesn't mean that he was found guilty or convicted. He was just accused. So just the idea that somebody can say you did something, whether or not they can prove it, is a whole different thing. But he was accused of writing this love letter, and then he was lynched for it. And then the question has to do for me today about love. What's the problem with a Black man being in love with a white woman? That's a conversation that I continue to have over and over again in my own life and in my own personal circles. And so it also plays into this conversation for today. So I said to you all, I'm not through with Wakanda Forever. I'm not through with it. I'm still thinking about it. And one of the things that continues to baffle me about the movie is the different takes, the different perspectives on the fact that there were strong Black women leaders in the movie. And so it was basically, if you want to think about it, it was basically Black women in charge of the show. When you think about Angela Bassett's character as the mother, and when you think about Shuri as the character who is the daughter who takes over as the Black Panther, when you think about the general who was the one who was sidelined because she lost Shuri in the United States, when you think about Lupita, who came in as the one who saved Shuri after she was lost in the United States. So you've got nothing but Black women in leadership in this movie, and you've got a whole group of people who are saying, yes, for the Black women, come through, because that's what we do as Black women. But there's an entirely different group of people who are asking the question, but where are the Black men? Like, why weren't they present? Why wasn't there someone there to take the helm to replace the Black male? And not just the father who had died, but also Chadwick Boseman, who really died, like literally died. So where were the Black men? And so we're having this conversation about what it means to love in the Black collective, and what are we doing to fight, or are we doing anything to fight this idea that women don't need a man? I don't know if you've ever heard a woman say that before, Tony. Have you heard a woman say, I don't need a man? I see you, Hotel. I don't need a man. Have you heard?
Oh, numerous times.
And what does that feel like to you as a Black man? Like, how do you feel when you hear that statement?
I look at it, or it made me feel like that. Here was someone, or here was a woman, a Black woman that doesn't have to be validated by a man, doesn't have to be um, that she is able. I can, take care of myself. I can accomplish things by myself. I don't need a man to facilitate my success or anything, because in this society, is this idea that um, a woman needs a man, and so every time I've heard it, I've just looked at it like, oh, you know, okay, I'm proud of you. Whatever you want to accomplish, go do it.
Well, that's interesting because that's not usually what I hear Black men say as it relates to Black women who say that they don't need a man. Most of the time I hear Black men feeling as if they have been set aside, that their own value and that their own contribution to the Black family is being dismissed, is being dishonored, is being disrespected. Because when we talk about Black love, when we talk about the importance of Black family, then we usually include a partnership in that. And now let me just make sure that I'm clear on this. Love is love to me. I think that you can be same gender loving, and that is fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. It just so happens that in this particular conversation, when I hear Black women say that they don't need a man, they're talking about in a heterosexual relationship. So I am not dismissing same gender loving folks at all. By no means am I dismissing that. It just so happens that when I'm having this conversation, it's usually a woman who identifies herself as heterosexual, and she says that she doesn't need a man. But there are several of my friends who feel like their lives are not complete unless they have a man. And so these are both sides of the conversation that I'm interested in us having today, because I hear Black men say all the time. I mean, they actually call me on the phone after these shows to talk about this phenomenon that we are experiencing, where it seems as if the Black family does not have to exist with the Black man. It can exist without. So for you to say, well, I feel like that means that a woman can do she can do well by herself, then do you feel like Black men have a place in the Black family? Or you feel like they're not necessary for you to say, well, the woman can do it all by herself? Then how do you see the Black man? What role do you see the Black man playing? And I want you to know that Phyllis Brown says she appreciates your comments.
Well, I think it just depends. One thing that we have to get past is this internalization, this idea that well, let me start out by saying this. I believe that, and we're just talking about the Black family, male and female, Black male, Black female. Yeah, I do believe that there is a sense that that there can be this idea of working together. That we can work together to accomplish some things, or that we can achieve some things. And that's what we have been internalized, that, hey, to young Black girls, that, hey, you find your husband, and and you raise a family, and that's the way it's supposed to go. Even Black men, you find your wife, and that's the way it's supposed to go. And and so because we're so internalized with that, when it doesn't happen that way, people start to feel a certain way on both sides. As Black men, because we have been marginalized so much, because we have been put down so much, because we have been feeling less value. And I'm not saying that Black women haven't, but I'm just talking from a Black man's perspective, is that because of that, when we hear a Black woman say, well, I don't need you, then it feeds into this idea that, well, if the Black woman doesn't need me, I already know society doesn't look at me like I'm needed. And so it makes them feel a certain type of way. And so I think one of the things that needs to happen is that Black men need to start understand the value that they have, that Black men need to start to understand the strength that they have, the intelligence that they have. And once they start to do that, then when they hear that from a Black woman, then they're able to say, okay, maybe, okay, you don't need you don't need a man, but what can I help? What can I do to help facilitate what you do?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever. Yes, I might have said before that I don't need a man, but I think that I followed it up by saying, but I want one. And so I think that when we have this conversation, one of the nuances is to consider what the word need means. And I think that, especially Black women in America, through my own experience, is that because we have had to deal with so many different understandings of what the Black man's role is. One of the understandings that I had to come into, or well, maybe I didn't have to come into it, I was taught it. So it was internalized, was that you cannot depend on the Black man. That's what I internalized, that as a Black woman, it is your job to hold it down. You're going to have to be there for your children. You're going to have to be there for your household. You're going to be there, like you have to be all of everything. You're going to have to just get to the point where you understand that it's going to be in your hands to take care of everything. And so you begin to grow up with this understanding that I am my all in all. And then if a man comes along, that's fine, but I cannot put my life in his hands, because I don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. I got to be ready to take care of everything. And so I think because that is one of the messages that I internalized at a very early age, then the question becomes, do I need you? Like, no, I can pay my mortgage. I can pay my car note. I can take care, like I can get whatever fixed in the house that I need. I can put together a bookcase. I can do all of these things. So what I want is for you to come alongside me and we work together to whatever goal it is that we establish for ourselves, but I don't need you. And so I think that the question does hinge on what does it mean when you say I need a person.
And I think one thing, because of that internalization of where Black women have thought that I can't depend on this Black man. A lot of that has been done through this society, through what has happened through slavery, what has happened through socially. That the one thing that was so important to Black people was the family. And because of the family, because of the strength of the family, it brought power. So if you strip the Black man away from the family and you start to uplift in a way the Black woman, and I've said this before, when you go back to how welfare affected the Black family, you don't need that man. You can have this, you can have that, you can have money, you can have food, you have a place to stay, but you can't have that man there. And so by taking that out, of course it made Black women, a lot of Black women feel like, well, you're right, I don't need him. I'm getting everything I need or I want or I desire. I'm getting it and I don't need him, which further pushed a chasm between Black women and Black men. And then because of how these racial and social institutions have really devalued Black men, where they have been struggling trying to find, where do I fit in and how do I get past this, and how do I do this amidst being pushed back. And because of that, Black women said, well, hey, I got to do it. I have to do it, And so I don't think it's so much as that I can't depend on this Black man for anything. Society has forced me to believe that I don't need this Black man.
Well, and that may be true for those people who were participating in the system of welfare. But there are a whole group of us as Black women who never participated in the system of welfare, who don't come from families that participate in the system of welfare. And so that argument It's only
Even if you didn't participate in the welfare, it did not stop the systems, the social systems and the system of racism from pushing that black man out of the family. They're pushing that
but
black
my
man.
Black father was always there. So I think again, I'm not trying to dismiss your argument. I'm just saying it only fits a certain population of people. And it doesn't fit all Black women because my daddy, from the beginning of my life to the end of his life, was always there. And we never had of any other system in place. But I was still brought up to believe that it was within my power to take care of myself and to be dependent and to make sure that I did not have to depend on anybody, not just on a Black man, but on anybody. That was important to my dad in particular to make sure that I knew that. And so the man who would come along, he would come along as a help. He would not come along as somebody that unless I have him, I can't. So he would come along and say, all right, together, we're going to make a decision. We're going to make some choices on how we're going to live, how we're going to push, how we're going to build. And my daddy was big on trying to help his children understand that the world that we were growing up in was an instantaneous kind of world. Like y'all think that y'all supposed to have the biggest house and the best car just out of the gate. And you all need to understand that you have to build with each other. And so that's what I was taught. Not that I need you, because I can do all of this by myself, but I want us to do it together. I want us to build. But this idea now of no, I don't even need, I can do everything all by myself. Like, where does that come from? Well, not where does that come from, but how is it continuing to diminish the Black family in particular, and especially through this lens with Wakanda Forever, because there's a flip side of it where I'm talking to some Black men who watched the film who said, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that Black men did not have to come to the rescue of these Black women. I wasn't expecting that. Caller, you're live on the air at KABF 88.3. Thanks for calling. Caller? I thought I saw the light up. So caller, call back, please. We definitely want to hear what you have to say. So no, I did not see that coming from a Black man. I didn't.
Well, I think, and when you watch the movie Wakanda Forever, I think one thing that is lost on it in this conversation is that it's not a thing of where were the Black men. Remember that there was a royal line, and it just so happens Chadwick Boseman was the only male in that royal line. After that, it went to the women because they were next in line in that royal line. When you look at, and because there has to be a certain type of challenge to get into that royal line for it to pass on. I don't know if people remember that at the end of the movie, that the one leader of the Jabari tribe, he stood up when they at the waterfall for the where there's going to be a challenge of who's going to be the next Black Panther. He stood up and said, "I challenge."
Yes, but I mean, even when you think about it in that way, for me, it's problematic because when the husband died, to me, it seemed like the wife would have been next in line instead of the son. So this is a system of patriarchy that says, no, we're going to value the male bodies. And when there are no more male bodies, then we will give the female bodies an opportunity to be valued in this way as leaders. And so for me, that's problematic because I even feel like to this day, the movie would have been better had Angela Bassett been the Black Panther rather than Shuri. She was a much better character for that role, in my opinion, than Shuri. As small as she was, as nerdy as she was, this wasn't even her, it wasn't even in her character to be one who can kill. Not to say she was not one who is a killer. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to have the capacity and the ability as a leader to do what is necessary to protect your tribe. And sometimes that includes killing. And she was not able to do that. And so for us to overlook Angela Bassett in favor of the man, then brings up this conversation about what are we saying about the value of male bodies versus female bodies, which to me goes back to why are some people concerned about the fact that there was no male? When you see all of these women in leadership in this movie, you want to know, where is the man? Why is that your question? Why can't the women handle it? Why can't the women take care of it? Why are we worried about who's going to help them? Why do we think that they even need help? What this idea of patriarchy is, I believe, rooted in the system of white inhumanity, but then it impacts us in such a way that we become complicit in it. What was wrong with the women just taking over? What's wrong with that? Why are we even having this conversation? And I'm having the conversation because I keep hearing people say, where was the Black man? And that's the question that they're asking, not just because of Wakanda Forever. I'm not dealing with the movie. I'm just using the movie to have the conversation. But that's a conversation we're having right now. Where is the Black man? Or am I the only one having this conversation?
No, I think the conversation has always been there. I think the conversation has always been talked about. Where is the Black man? When you start, if we're going to look at it like that, then where's the Black man? Incarcerated. Where's the Black man? Unemployed. Where is the Black man being denied access to certain things? Where is the Black man being devalued? That's where the Black man is, so there are a lot of Black men who at times get tired of fighting against all of this. They get tired of trying to push past all this, and they get exhausted. And
so when you get exhausted, what decision do you make?
I don't know.
That you're just not gonna. You're not gonna show up. Like you're not.
It's not so much. It's I'm not gonna show up. It's the idea of that. When I show up, I get knocked back.
Well, that's probably because of the way that you show up. And so Ben E. King asked the question when he's singing the song, I need somebody to stand by me. I don't need anybody to control me. I don't need anybody to undermine me. I don't need anybody to try to make me feel like I am incompetent or not proficient in what I understand to be my role in my life. I need somebody to stand by me. And I think that even when we begin to talk about religion, we begin to talk about the man, and you're supposed to be the head of the household. And so you come in and you show up in this relationship, and you want to show up as the one who controls. You want to show up as the one who decides. You want to show up as the one who is in charge. And that becomes problematic, especially when a woman has internalized the message that I don't need you to be in charge. I need you to stand by me. I need us to be in partnership. I need us to come alongside each other, but I don't need you to run nothing.
And I think that door swings both ways, because there are Black men who feel like, okay, I have something to offer, and I want to come alongside of you. But there are Black women who will say, no, you're not on my level. You don't have what you're not bringing to the table what I need for you to bring to the table. So how can you come alongside of me when you are deficient in certain areas, when you are not what I perceive you should be? And so, no, you can't come alongside of me. And that Black man is saying, hey, I can, because I am bringing something to the table. I'm bringing to the fact that I want to listen to you. I'm bringing to the fact that we can work together. I'm bringing to the fact that I have intelligence. I'm bringing to the table that I have all this if you allow me to come alongside you.
Calling you live on the air at KABF 88.3. Thanks for calling.
Hey, good morning, Ooh, Happy New Year to y'all. How y'all doing?
Happy New Year.
Okay, hey, Denise, how your mom doing?
She having the time of her life in Florida.
Kicking it.
What you did. And Tony, how your family doing?
They're doing well.
Yeah, and I'm doing well over there. I'm listening to y'all, okay? Denise, I got to say this, girl. What you was talking about. Hey, you know what? See, white folk, I ain't gonna be all wrong, okay? But when I studied in history, okay, I'm not a buff on history, but you know what? I'm a buff enough to know what the hell is going on in this world today, especially since 2020 with the pandemic. But what I want to say, Denise?
I'm here. Yeah, we're here. We're here. We're here.
We're here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, y'all still there. Okay. What I'm saying, Denise, I was listening to what you said, and Tony, I was listening to what you said. Denise, you are so correct, and Tony, you are so correct. Denise, the Black woman has always looked out for the black man, especially since, and when I started up on in slavery, when slavery started, when white folks, French folks, Portuguese folks, all kinds of folks came over to Africa and started taking up about our land, and we wouldn't do it under nobody. That's mind our own business. But all of a sudden, the white man comes over and gets us to fight against each other. And the black woman always looked out for the black man. And you're so right, Denise. Because you know what? The black woman looked out for the black man. Because you know what? They always try to save the black man. But you know what? The black woman is the creator of this nation. Everybody came from the black woman. And the white folks, y'all better give it now. Because you know what? Y'all come from black women too, okay? Because you know what? The black woman created this earth, okay? Not the earth, but created the race. You know, because, hey, Eve was black, okay? But it come down to it. I wish somebody, hey, ooh-wee, to the ooh-wow, to the ooh-wee, to the ooh, to the sort of ooh-wee-wow. Hey, I'm keep on listening, y'all. Hey, I love you guys. Hey, Happy New Year. Hey, just give me some confirmation on what I just said, okay?
Okay.
Love y'all.
Okay.
Love you.
So, in this conversation, when you say that the black man presents himself to the black woman and the black woman then says, no, you're not good enough, basically is what you're saying. You're not good enough. You don't have what I need you to have. You don't have what I want you to have, whatever it is that you're saying right before Uwe got on the line. And I think that I do want to pick up what Uwe says and say, no, I'm not sure that's true. I think many of us as black women have said, you may not have the education that I have, but I still want to partner with you. You may not have the house like I have, but I still want to partner with you. I think there are several women who have given themselves over to relationships where if you're looking at it just on paper, the man does not measure up. I don't think that that's what black women set out to do, to say to a black man, no, you're not worthy of me because you don't have this, this, and this. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I don't think that that's the norm, because I think many of us as black women, what we value more than anything is the love of the black man. I want a black family. I want a black tribe. I want black children. I want this to be my story that I tell, my legacy that I leave. So I'm not sure that that's the case where you got black women that saying, oh, you're not good enough for me. Again, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I don't think that's the overarching story, especially since we live in a world where we know that the system of white inhumanity relegates the black man to the margins. And so I come to the margin, listening to what Uwe says, I come to the margin for you. And I'm okay with you not having all that I have. Because again, to the point is to build. And so you have some black men who then take on roles that I think this conversation has to go into. We reverse the gender roles. There are some men who then become the ones who stay at home, who are the ones who have to take care of the children, because you can't get the job, you can't get whatever that is. And the woman says it's okay because it's a partnership. I don't mind working. You do this, I'm going to do that. Is that not your experience?
Yes, but what happens, and like I said, it swings both ways. And yes, when you say that, that's not the overarching idea, the overarching, I want to get it right.
You can use your own words.
The overarching thing. But going back to something you said, because there are black families that the father or the mother, whoever, is teaching their child, you don't need anybody. You can do this on your own. Be independent. Make sure you can take care of yourself. And because a lot of black women carry that, I want this man to come alongside of me, but it has to be in a certain way, because I don't need him. I may want this black love. I may want, and then the next question becomes, we frame the condition of the love. We frame or have an idea or an expectation of what this love should look like from this black man. And if it doesn't meet my expectation, if it doesn't meet my criteria, then I can't be with that black man, no matter how much he loves me, no matter how much he may want to be with me, because he hasn't met this. Now, let me say this.
Are you saying that black men?
Let me say this. Let me say this. I'm not saying that with all black love. I'm not saying that.
Yes,
but
the onus right now in your conversation is on the black woman. And so are you saying that, and that might be part of this, no, it's not might be, that's part of this conversation too. So when you show up as the black man, you don't have any criteria? Like, so you're saying the woman is like, you're not meeting me as this, so you just show up and you like, hey, I'm here as the black man, love me. Like
in this conversation, I started out by saying one thing. It swings both ways. This is a door that opens both ways, not just from the black woman, but just from the black man. It just so happens we were talking about black women.
But I'm talking about both of us. I'm talking about, because I remember saying that how you show up as the black man plays a very significant role in how the relationship unfolds.
And I think that goes both ways, how the black man shows up and how the black woman shows up. Because the black man may show up, and once that black woman gives him that idea that I don't need you, I can make it on my own.
But that's a true statement. What's the problem with that? It is a true statement. For right now, when I think about my own self at 50 years old, with my own house and my own car, paying my own bills, I don't need anybody to come in here and help me run my life. That's not what I need.
And so now you have to break. That's what you need, but that's not the overall picture of all black relationships.
I mean, who can say what the overall picture of all black relationships? Surely we're not talking about all black relationships. What we're talking about is the fact that when you have a conversation like this, where we're asking ourselves, based on the movie, where is the black man? Right? And so you have these women who are in full leadership, and in this movie, they're doing the thing, they're taking care of everything, they're getting it done. Why is the question, where's the black man? And then you got some black men saying, yes, why should I have to come and deliver you? Why should I have to come and rescue you? So what is the role? The role is not for you to be needed. The role is for you to help me build.
And I think that's what it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be, period, in the relationship. That you come together to work together for a common goal, to reach a common place, to accomplish certain things. That's the way it's supposed to be. But because of racism, because of internalization of the breakdown of the family, that doesn't happen all the time.
And because of the role of the church, because the black church is teaching all kinds of things about patriarchy and the man being the head of the house. Like the church is very complicit in that conversation. Wait, let me just get this from Ramen. What is the duty of a civilized man? In the basic unit of life, the atom, the family, the proton resides in the nucleus with the neutrons. This gives the atom its weight. So what is the duty of the civilized man? Okay, so it sounds like you're saying the duty of the civilized man is to be the one that holds it down. That's what it sounds like you're saying to me. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. If I'm not getting this right, write back and let me know. But the nucleus of the family is going to absolutely include the black man. And again, I just want to make sure that we know that we're situating this conversation in a heterosexual context, but it is not limited to that at all. Same gender loving folks, I'm down with it, no problem at all. So I just want to make sure that I say that, continue to say that. So you're saying that the church does not play a role, especially
you didn't let me finish.
You didn't start it because I said because I was the one who was saying it before I brought it in.
So you just said that I'm saying that the church is not complicit, and what I was getting ready to say is that I agree with you. Yes, the church is complicit with this idea of that the man is the head and this, and I always try to tell people, if you look at it. If you look at the creation, it was said, it's not good for man to be alone. But to me, I take it as it's not good for humankind to be alone. So I'm going to bring a helpmate, someone that's going to help each side accomplish what it needs to accomplish. Because the church has skewed it to say that, if you're a man, and a woman has to follow this man and be submissive, because to me that makes no sense. Because if a man is out there doing crazy stuff and destroying the family, you just want to follow him? No, it doesn't make any sense. So yes, the church has to change its idea and understand, as it teaches people, you're there to be compatible or comparable or to work together alongside each other to go to get what you need to do.
And so then I think that we have to then begin to divest from these narratives, right? Because um, as a woman, um, I do think that I have been taught that there's a certain kind of man who's supposed to show up with certain stuff. You show up with certain stuff, and then I can consider whether or not you're going to be a good partner. And I think that there is a man who's also looking for a certain type of woman. And so I think that we have to begin to ask ourselves a broader question and a deeper question about energy. Like when we meet somebody, like instead of having this checklist. And a lot of times, who was that? Steve Harvey, I think he said it. I didn't listen to Steve Harvey, but my cousin does. And she said that there was a show that he did about women in their checklist. Like you want A through Z. Like I'm going to figure out my life from A to Z, and I'm going to spend a lot of time figuring out what, the who, the what, the why. I mean, just a lot of time on this checklist. And then the man has to fit it. But one of the things that we realized, or that he realized, and he wanted to bring to our attention, is that the list that we're creating for somebody else, we do not check off all of that list in our own lives. So I'm expecting you to be somebody that I am not. And you're not good enough for me unless you have all these check marks. But me, myself, I cannot say that I haven't either. And so this idea that you got to show up with all of this stuff, we have to begin to divest from that and ask ourselves, what do you need to show up with? Because I do think you need to show up with something.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems that has happened in the Black family, in Black love, I just said it, in Black love, is that I feel that a lot of times Black men and Black women don't take the time to truly evolve, don't take the time to truly grow. And what I mean by that, we are so internalized in how we grew up and what we experience in our life experiences that it's so hard for us to shift away when something is presented that makes better sense. And we just stay this. I hear so many people say, well, that's just the way I am, or that's just the way I was raised. And then when you question, okay, just because you were raised that way, and you start to hear something different, why can't you shift? And I'll be the first one to admit that's the way I was growing. And early on, I had the idea that I'm a man and I have to be this and I have to be that. But as I started to grow, as I started to listen, as I started to hear other conversations, and I started to question, well, I don't have to be that way, because at the end of the day, what is the number one goal? Is that can we move forward in this relationship? You may not have everything or check off every box. I may not check off every box, but can we sit in the box and move out of the box to a better place?
So here's Lo on Facebook. In the name of Black unity and liberation, the Willie Lynch syndrome of division is still working strong. Since 1970, there has been a steady decline of relationships between the Black man and the Black woman. Yeah. And I think so when we go back to the Legacy Museum, one of the things that I loved about it, not just the Legacy Museum, even when we talk about Dr. Rita Roberts and her book, I Can't Wait to Call You My Life, the overarching theme was focusing on the Black family and helping us to understand how this constant perpetual attack against the Black family continues to impact us even now. And again, I'm not just talking about heterosexual relationships, I'm just talking about Black family units, period, whatever that looks like. And so we still are suffering from this idea that you are not good enough for me because you don't have. But this idea of having, this system of materialism is absolutely killing us, because that is not the goal is not to have a certain kind of house. I would just think the goal is to make sure that you have a home that you can leave, right? Like, it doesn't have to be 4,000 square feet. Does it have to be Does it have to be what you call it with the stairs? Does it have to be 2-story? Does it have to be all of that? Or can it be that I'm leaving a legacy to my children, one that I can give to them free of charge, that they don't have any notes on because I've taken care of that? And so I think we have to rethink what materialism means for us and how it shows up for us so that we are able to better, like you said, shift in the conversation. So, Raman, this is to you, Hotep. Mr. Hotep needs to call in and explain the principles in the symbolism of the Ankh as opposed to the symbol of the cross. Why do you think Mr. Hotep needs to do that? Mr. Hotep needs to call in and explain the principles and the symbolism of the Ankh, which is a different kind of cross than the kind of T-shaped cross that we always associate with Jesus. Caller, you're live on the air, KABF 88.3. Thanks for calling.
Thank you, and good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, listen, I think that white humanity, they know that the family is the basic unit. When you have a husband, wife, and children, that's what it takes. I honestly think it's a man and a woman to raise the children. That's what marriage is about, raising your children. Now, when you don't have a man in the house, and I think there's been conspiracies to keep our men ineligible. For example, if the advent of crack cocaine, that is my theory, different things to keep a lot of brothers in jail now, and different things like that. They know that it takes a man or woman to breed kids. I think both girls and boys need good fathers. I know I had one, and I've never seen him in jail. That's one thing, and that might be what keeps it doing. Like Brother Tony said, the women, they see that a lot of brothers are ineligible. A lot of times, they end up going to the other race because, and plus, the way we've been conditioned to think that the black man, and a lot of times, the scum of the earth, a lot of sisters fall into that vein in taking up what white humanity has done. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for taking my call. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it just reminds me of the story of one of my friends in Chicago, and I got an opportunity to see him while I was there. When we were I think I was about 20 something, and I was visiting him. And
hold on, Tony, before you get into it. Caller, you're live on the air, KABF 88.3. Thanks for calling.
Sure. Good morning, Denise.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Brother Tony.
Good morning.
The next thing you call it, this thing the cross and is that the cross leaves out the symbol of the woman, which is the woman, which is a circle oval. That's why they say the arms represent life, meaning you have mother, father, and child. And the cross leaves the mother off the mother out of it. That's the difference. But if we go back to an ancient time, black men and black women never had this fight, okay? We've always supported one another, even coming through most African systems. In order for the man to sit on the throne, he had to come through the woman. So, I mean, if we're going to talk about black liberation and black unity, that, like I said, that system of equivalence of division is very strong. It's doing what it set out to do by keeping black men and black women divided, thereby providing for unity. But that's the difference between the cross and the other. Peace and blessings, y'all.
So we have to decide for ourselves that we're not going to let anything divide us, especially not materialistic things, which comes with this checklist that I keep talking about, that I know I've had for years and years, that I had to figure out how to do away with. So you want to tell the story about your friend?
Yeah. So me and my friend, one day there was these two, and one was my cousin. He worked as a garbage man, sanitation engineer is what he used to say. And so my cousin saw him, and she said, "Oh, that's a nice looking man." And I said, "Yeah, that's my partner." He just happened to be coming down our street on our route when we saw him, and he said he spoke to her and said, and asked her, and said, "Hey, maybe one day we can get together. I know you was Tony's cousin. Maybe we get together, go out and eat." She said, "No, thanks." And so once he left, she said to me and her friend, ain't no way in the hell would I ever date a garbage man because he ain't got nothing. He a garbage man. So her friend asked me, do you have his telephone?
Yes, for the friend.
I said, yes. Now, both my cousin and friend, they both graduated from the University of Illinois. They were professionals. And so she started dating. Eventually they got married. And they have thrived. To this day, my cousin is still by herself, which is cool. She chooses to be by herself. But that same idea is still in her head, is that I can't find anybody suitable, or like you said, a checklist. And it wasn't this time, but one time I was in Chicago and I asked her, I said, what if you would have dated or went out with Charles? And she repeated the same thing. He's a garbage man. I said, yeah, but look at Sharice and Charles. They live in the suburbs. They have the children are in college. All the children graduated college. Look at what they're doing. They have their own business. He took what he was as a garbage man. She took what she had as a business major, and look what they did.
Yeah, and so I think it just goes back to what we are. Hold on just a minute. Caller, you're live on the air, KABF 88.3. Thanks for calling. Caller, you're live on the air at KABF 88.3. Thanks for calling.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing?
Hey.
Hey, I've been trying to get in there, y'all. You know what? Hey, ain't too many people been calling. I know it's getting close to the end. Y'all know I've been listening to y'all for some years, okay? And I'm loving that. Hey, but I wanted to say, Tony, you are so right, and Denise, y'all both are so right. Because, it's about participation, within a relationship, If two people don't participate with each other, hey, yeah, okay, it says about the man is the leader of the relationship when it comes to marriage, okay? Now, friendship, that's a different story. What I'm saying, but hey, it's about respect. I call it respect. We have to respect each other. Don't think that, hey, I'm supposed to do more than you. And I ain't talking about 50-50. How a lot of people talking about 50-50 relationship? No, it's 100-100. A lot of times it needs to be 150. Okay? But hey, I just want to put that in there, y'all. Hey, I'm starting my new year out, man. I'm glad I'm able to talk to y'all. I know this is Black Participation Radio, and ain't much of that going on up in this song. Okay, but shit, okay, already. Hey, y'all, I'm finna go. Hey, I love y'all. I'm gonna call back again, okay? Hey, keep on making it do what it do, y'all, okay? Because I listen to you all the time, all right?
Okay.
All right now.
All right, bye-bye. So here's this comment from Phyllis Brown. The Western patriarchal architecture is pervasive throughout most of the world. Rather than a patriarchal society, I would like to see a just, equitable, and socialist society where the sex one is born into does not confer status and privilege. I'd like to see that too. Here's Raman that also says the Black world is just that, a world. With unity as a first principle, we create worlds, not communities. And I think that, so I'm concerned about your cousin because I know that the story that you're telling about her is a very common story, that we decide a person's worth based on something materialistic, what kind of job you have. Because I think the two of us have had this conversation. You meet a person, the first thing you want to know is, where do you work? Why is that even important? If I'm getting to know you, if I'm meeting you, then what role does that play? And so you say, well, I wasn't even thinking about it. I just asked the question because we've been trained to do that. We've been trained to say, I'm going to decide what kind of person you are based on certain factors. Are you a homeowner? Do you have a car? Do you have a job? That's what we need to know in order for us to value you. And we've got to simply divest from all of that. But the only way that we can divest from it is to, first of all, recognize our own complicity in it. And so when the caller says a few minutes ago that the black family, you need a man in the house to raise your children. Then for a woman like me who doesn't have children, then what does that say? Like, so then how then does my life fit into this paradigm that you've set up about what it means to have a black man in order for him to raise his children? What does that mean when there are no children? And so I think we just have to begin to think on a more broader level of how have to think on a broader level about these things, about what it means to be in a relationship, about what it means to build, about who we can build with. We can build with anybody if we decide to give ourselves over to the relationship. And what's stopping you? And so that's the conversation that we were just having today, based on the fact that Wakanda Forever, centers Black women. They're all throughout the movie. And there are some people who have a real major problem with that. And I asked the question, why? And then there are some men who are saying, I'm glad I ain't got to rescue you. Okay, you don't have to rescue me, but what do you have to do? Like, what are our roles with each other, and how are we willing to rethink them so that we can be in better relationship with each other as we move forward, especially throughout this year. So thank you all for showing up for Community Voices. You've been live at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. Your girl Lola is already in the house, ready for the jazz. Don't touch that dial. She'll be right here. See y'all soon.
All right. So I'm gonna have to take your side this time.